the way I explain it to people is this. Everyone has 24 hours. How come some people in 24 hours, they're changing the world? Other people in 24 hours, they can barely get just the little things done during the day, right? Everyone has the same time. It's really the relationship with the time that we have to look at. And another way to look at it.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited. Today we have a special guest speaker. Her name is Khairy Varre, and Kyrie is actually my personal business coach, but she's a business advisor. She's a high performance coach. She has decades of experience in strategic project management, consulting. She even does martial arts. Can you believe that? She is a lady that does martial arts, and she's an MBA lecturer in project management. Kyrie helps entrepreneurs and people gain in business acumen, as well as work through their mind shifts and productivity hacks that are required for them to really do better to gain maximum results. Kyrie helps them leverage their time and step into next level thinking so they can create the life and business they're obsessed with. Please welcome Kyrie to the platform. Today we are going to talk about next level thinking.
Yay.
Hi, Kyrie. How are you?
I am so happy to be here. Super happy and excited to be with you, Susanne, today.
So tell me, what is next level thinking, first of all? What is that? Let's define that for our viewers and our listeners.
Yeah, next level thinking. So one of my favorite things to teach people, or when I'm mentoring people, talking to people about business building, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, is that really business building is personal development on steroids. So you have to think about your business in a completely different fashion if you want to do things that people have not done, or do things in a way that you have not been able to do them before. So especially now, as the world is the way it is, and people are looking to grow and even cope and thrive in the midst of everything that's going on right now, there's something that has to change in the way you've thought about things until now. And what my favorite thing to do is just give people those little nuggets that will change the perspective, change the paradigm, change and remove some of the barriers of what we thought possible until now. So that's what I mean by next level thinking. And it touches so many different topics, but that's the gist of it.
Wow. So tell me about some areas that people are stuck in that prohibits them from moving forward and really getting where they're going.
So one of the most common topics that people bring up all the time is productivity. How do I do more? I don't have enough time. I have this and that happening. There's not enough time in the day to do all of these things that I want to do, including the big goals that I'm trying to achieve. And so when we talk about next level thinking, that's one of them. Because a lot of people, when they're trying to become more productive, what normal people will do, grab a book, get some new tactics, and try to implement, like, I don't know, the zero-based calendar, or sorting out their emails in a certain way. But at the end of the day, those are just tactics and strategies. It's not what's going to fix the problem. That's just a Band-Aid. If you want to have that next level thinking that's going to give you the big results and the leaps versus just the little incremental changes, you need to change your way of thinking about time, right? So the way I explain it to people is this. Everyone has 24 hours. How come some people in 24 hours, they're changing the world? Other people in 24 hours, they can barely get just the little things done during the day, right? Everyone has the same time. It's really the relationship with the time that we have to look at. And another way to look at it, when you're in an emotional state where you're stressed, do you realize how time just compresses and you have even less of it, right? Whereas when you feel expansive and you're thinking big and possibility, all of a sudden you can do so much more within the time that's available to you. So what that tells you is that it's not the time to think. Time is not something that's out there. It's something that's internal. It's the concept that's internal. It's our relationship with it that we have to evolve, and our thinking of what we've put our focus on that then creates like the way that you're going to use time and how much you can do with it. It really starts inside. And so that's one of the topics that I like to talk to entrepreneurs about. And then when we review their schedule and all of that, we already did the work, the internal stuff before. Everything else is little tactics. It's going to make it easier, but it's not going to fix it unless you look inside first.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, me as an entrepreneur, it's sometimes hard to even think about time, because it always seems to be not enough for the things that I want to do, the next idea. What are
Yeah.
some hacks that we can do to increase that time and make more time available?
Yeah, I think the first thing is really, and it's probably the most important thing for every single entrepreneur, and not just entrepreneur, human beings. When you think about it, we are energetic beings, whether you look at it from the spiritual sense, the scientific sense, no matter how you look at it, we're energetic beings. How does energy work? Through the use of focus. So one way to become more productive is to really hone in your focus muscle. Learning to identify, okay, I'm here right now. Where am I trying to go? If I'm trying to go to that direction, that's exactly the point that I'm looking to reach. I have to make sure that my energy is not sent into multiple directions, but instead focused towards that direction. The more you can focus your attention and your energy towards a specific direction and a single point, the faster you're going to get there and the better results you're going to get. Whereas doing a whole plethora of different things, it's like taking your glass of water and just sprinkling a bunch of droplets here and there and hoping to still get to your destination. It just doesn't work. All right. So I don't know if it's called a hack or whatever, but that's the really most important ingredient. It's your ability to focus and remain focused regardless of what's going on out there. Regardless of Corona, you still have a job to do. Regardless of so many things, if you are thinking big picture and you have those big dreams, it's your ability to maintain your focus and continue moving despite the distraction that's going to determine if you make it or not. And that's going to determine your productivity as well.
I love that. So just focusing and keeping focus and keeping moving towards the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I think that's really great advice with that. Now, I know like in life, right, things happen, right? There's distraction. There are the fires that happen, the call that you get at 8 a.m., the email that came in at 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning, right? On the
Yes.
employee that just can't figure it out. What are the things that we can do now? How do we hone that focus in a world of
Yes.
distractions and fires that are constantly going out?
I like to tell this story because a few years ago, I ordered a planner, right? I used to have like one full year planners and work on those things. It was always, there's something around like planning for a whole year, at least at that level of detail, and keeping and maintaining your focus for so long. So what I developed very quickly, and it really came from martial arts, the way a lot of people thought about like practicing for their exam and so on, it was like on the long term. For me, I would do sprints. All right. So let's say that I have an exam, like a really important Kung Fu exam in 8 months. I'm going to break it down literally. And I'm going to be like, okay, for the first 3 months, here's what I'm going to focus on. And I'll do everything I can and like put all of my energy into that versus spreading it. Right. So I was doing that intuitively with martial arts. Then one day I ordered a planner and I thought it was a 1 year planner. But when it came in, it was a 13-week planner. I was like, who does that? Like, why would you create a 13-week planner? But then I
More
started,
sales?
I know, right? But then I started using it and I was like mind blown. I was like, okay, so instead of looking at the full year, if I looked at the year as just these 13 weeks, how much can I get done within the 13 weeks? And so if I cannot do everything in 13, like 3 months is a very short time when you think about it, what should I focus on and prioritize? Which when you think about it is exactly what I talk to CEOs and leaders in corporate project management. What are going to be the priorities? And I started getting into the habits of just choosing 2 or 3 things every 12 weeks. And that's all I'm focusing on. Everything else that comes, if it comes in, I'm going to compare. Okay, does it make more sense? Is it more of a priority? Then I need to make big decisions. But if it's not, it can wait a few more weeks until I can tackle it, right? And so that just makes you more proactive in how you use your time, more intentional in how you use your time, and you make better decisions and you see things through, because 12 weeks is enough for you to change. It's enough for you to adopt new habits, but it's also short enough that you keep your momentum, that you keep the energy needed to complete your projects. So that's something that blew my mind. It was a few years ago. And then I discovered a book a few weeks ago, like a couple of months ago, written on that whole concept, and it blew my mind. I was like, that's why it worked. It makes sense. There's actually science backing this up. So create shorter time containers, smaller time containers, and you focus all of your energy in those time containers. It's going to change your life.
I love that. And you're right. By breaking it over 13-week periods, right, in a year, it forces you to reassess, right? Because as you get your next planner, you have to refigure out, are these goals that have I accomplished them? Are they heading in the right direction? Do I want to continue with this goal? Because maybe it's not relevant, right? Because what we did like the end of 2019 is no longer relevant in the COVID world, right? You might not be planning that in-person convention anymore, right? It doesn't make sense.
And honestly, every 3 months approximately, your life changes, whether you realize it or not. Most people don't realize it. But every 3 months approximately, things happen in your life, your health, your family, your work, and so on, that change a little bit your priorities. And you have to get in the habit of being intentional then, recreating what you want your life to look like over the next few weeks, right? Versus just waiting and life is like punching you all around the place and we're just being reactive to it. That's why then time becomes like this thing that we cannot grasp and we cannot control.
Definitely. And you accomplish more too, probably over a 12-month period, because you're taking it in smaller chunks, right? It's like dieting. You don't throw out all the good stuff on the first day. You make slow, gradual changes, right?
Exactly.
I love that. That's a really good hack that you found.
Oh my God, it changed my, like this planner. I think that's why I fell in love with it. I was like, it took something that I was doing intuitively, but in a completely other discipline. And it just made me bring it into business, bringing it into my everyday life. And it's super powerful.
I love that. That is a really good idea. Thank you for sharing that. What are some other next level thinking ideas for us entrepreneurs out there?
Another thing, when I talk to entrepreneurs about like how to reach their goals in general, one thing that's very important is, as I said, like business building is personal development on steroids. So at the end of the day, it's not about the strategies and the tactics and what works and what doesn't work. Like everything works. If it worked for somebody, it can work for you. The problem usually is not the tactics or the strategies. It's about understanding that when you're building your business, any change that you bring, it's not to the business itself, it's to you. The way you evolve is exactly how your business is going to evolve. And I learned this from being in corporate, consulting on projects all the way to $6 billion projects with CEOs, senior executives, and so on. And we would audit teams. We would audit their processes. We would talk to the leaders, everyone, right? And I started seeing patterns. The paradigms that someone has is going to have all of the effect on how they're performing. The way that they see the world, the words that they use, the way that they talk about things, all of those things, they kind of show you a reflection of their perception of the world, and it reflects on the business. If it's the leader, it's going to reflect on the rest of the team. If it's the employee, it's going to reflect on their desk, right? Their CEO of their desk. It's going to reflect on their performance. And so it's the same thing for entrepreneurs. At the end of the day, what is a business? It's a set of ideas and concepts and things that we pulled out of our brain or our heart or whatever, and we tied them together and decided that was our business. But that means that all of that came from you. And if you want the business to change, what's going to happen is you have to change you. If you want the business to grow, you have to grow yourself, and it's going to be reflected in the business. So people don't have business problems in general. They have personal problems. It's just business is the mirror of it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when you think about your business, then when you think about, oh, I want to get to 7 figures, I want to get 6 figures, I want to grow my team to X, Y, and Z, it's going to be your ability to get there is going to be a pure reflection of your paradigms, your beliefs, your relationship with time we talked about before. All of those things are going to be then reflected. When you work on yourself, it's going to be reflected in the business, not the other way around.
Wow, that's a very interesting concept. And I'm going to dig a little deeper on this one, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Kyrie. But you're absolutely right. I've heard of the John Maxwell, the law of the lid, right? Meaning that really, only your company is only going to be able to grow as far as you're able to grow, right? And so when you stop growing, you become the lid of the company, because literally, most likely it will not surpass you and what your limitations are unless you learn to grow out of that. And so with that, Kyrie, how do we start to really remove that lid? How do we remove that lid to have the company that we want? And really, at this point, a lot of our audiences are scaling, right? They're, they're no longer that business of one. They've got teams of 10, 20, 30. And, it's like, at some point it's like herding cats, you can easily become that.
Yes.
How do you transfer your mindset to everybody else?
There's definitely growth that has to happen at the end of so when you think about it, when people come together, they're coming together because they perceive that they have somewhat of a common goal, or at least it's interconnected somewhere. So from the CEO perspective and side of things first, definitely the number one thing, and that applies to all humans, regardless of if we're talking about business or relationship or health or anything like that, your vision of what you want has to be extremely clear to yourself. And your definition of what success should look like for you has to be extremely clear. If it is not for you, it's not going to be clear for anyone on your team. And they're going to probably be there for not the right reasons that you want them there. Okay, so be very, very crystal clear about where you're wanting to go, why you want to go there, what does it look like, and how are you going to measure your own metrics of success to get there. So that's the number one thing. And that's like your North Star. When I was talking about the relationship with time, all of those things, it starts with that vision of the future, the intention, right? And then after that, you're definitely going to have to break it down. The cycle that I talk to people all the time is cast the vision, rehearse the vision. I come from a martial arts background, like mental rehearsal of everything you need to do. Even if you're injured and you're prepared for an exam, you can't move, you can't walk, you're going to practice it in your brain. The brain doesn't make the difference. So making it a habit. I know a lot of people in personal development, they talk about how you have to write your goals over and over again and all of that. It's part of the same thing. It's rehearsing the vision, mental preparation, mental rehearsal. It changes, without it changes so much of the subconscious thought that you have with yourself. Okay, so casting the vision, rehearsing the vision, eliminating distraction. Distraction comes in so many different forms. Yes, it can be external, but even that, I always have a caveat. You wouldn't see it if you were not paying attention. That's what I tell you. You wouldn't see it if you were not paying attention and waiting for it. But eliminating distraction, all of the limiting beliefs that we have, all of the patterns. We have patterns. Some of them are helping us. Some of them are preventing us from reaching our goals. Learning to know those things about ourselves is so crucial, right? And then taking action and getting into the habit of moving fast. The longer you wait between the moment you make a decision and the moment you act, the more time you give to yourself to talk yourself out of it, or to let your limiting beliefs and everything else that can come and distract you from actually going and taking action. It has time to come in and change the whole flavor of the soup, right? So getting into the habit of making a decision, a real decision, and moving into action fast, building the momentum is really crucial for that.
I love that. I always tell people, in Profit First, the hardest part about getting started in Profit First is just getting started. But once that boulder starts rolling down the hill, don't get in front of it because you won't make it. But you're right. It's like that inertia, you know what I mean? And like momentum, and a body at rest is a body at rest. So once it's moving, you can't stop it. So.
Yes, exactly. And the cool thing, it applies both to CEO and every single person in there. At the end of the day, all that we're doing in relationship, in parenting, it's personal development. We're trying to go to become a better version, what we perceive to be a better version of ourselves, no matter what we're doing. That's how we're wired, right? So that's what I just said. It applies to everyone. And the more as a leader you're able to do that with yourself, the more you're able to inspire your team to do the same, the more amazing results you're going to see in your company.
I love that. And I love what you said too about casting the vision and rehearsing the vision. One of the things that I found personally just in my own entrepreneurship journey is you have to know where you stand for. You have to know your values, because if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know where you're going, it's easily you allow whatever happens, to become who you become, right? If you don't give your team direction,
Exactly.
they set the tone, right? And how they do things sets the tone. And it's very hard to change it once you allow them to set the tone. So you're right. You're absolutely right. You have to set the vision. And Kyrie is not joking when she's talking about she's into quick action. Like, as my coach, man, she had me like getting started with public speaking and media. And look, we're doing this podcast now, so she is like no joke about get started.
Oh
I
yeah.
never want to do public speaking, but Kyrie, it was almost like pushing you into the pool and go swim.
It just works better. It works better, literally. And when I practice kung fu, there's maybe 2 or 3 like women now, like at my level doing things. But for a long time, it was just men, right? They're all taller, they're bigger, they're stronger, and so on. But you can't be like hesitating when you're sparring with people. You just need to move. Like, things gonna happen. It's fine. You'll figure it out while the punch is coming. Right? You can't foresee the punch, and like it can't be perfect until you start doing the things. So that's where it comes from. And just realizing that the faster you get into motion, the faster all the opportunities and things that are going to help you get to the goal show up. They don't show up until you start getting into action. So that's why that part is really, really important.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah, I can't, I never did Kung Fu like on like a real like class level, I mean, I watched some Bruce Lee movies growing up and like sparred with my brothers, but that was about it. But you're right. If you stand there, you're going to get hit. You don't have time to think about what my next move is. Am I going to use my right hand, my left hand, my right foot, my left foot? You've already been kicked a few times. You're absolutely
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. If you just expect to receive a few punches, and you're going to learn as you do it. But that's a lot of the stuff that I do in business, like the philosophies I derive from that, and spirituality, because at the end of the day, I think that, and that's one other thing too, by the way, Susanne, when it comes to business, when I talk about that next level thinking, a lot changed for me when I realized that I was allowed to remove the barrier between what I do in martial arts, what my spirituality is about, what business is. And because at the end of the day, all of that is about me. I'm just one person. I'm not these fragmented pieces of me, right? And just bringing all of that together, it completely changed the way I view business, and even my career, and the impact that I want to have on the world, and so on. So that part is also part of the next level thinking, is just realizing that you're not these separate parts of you. It's one person. It's important for you to bring all of it to the table. When you look at corporations, that's what they do. As consultants, for example, I'd worked this week or this month on an aviation project. Next week in education, construction, and so on. How do all of those grow? By grabbing what we know and what we learn from the other industries and bringing them together. And it brings creativity. It expands what we think is possible, all of those things, by combining it together. Right? So when we look at ourselves, realize that you being a parent, you being a spiritual person, you being an athlete, and all of those things, they're not separate to you being a CEO and a business person. The more you're able to integrate all of that, the happier you are at your job, because you actually feel like all of you is one cohesive thing, and the more wisdom you can derive and share with others as well.
I love that. So that congruency, right? You can't have
Yes.
like the personality at work, the personality at home. You have
Yeah.
to be one. I love that. That's really important. And I think that's also goes into like entrepreneurship, with doing what you love and what you are meant and called to do, right?
You'll know more about it when you integrate all of those aspects of you and you own it. That makes just everything much easier.
That is amazing. Thank you, Kyrie. Now, as we wind down, what piece of advice, what tip, and it doesn't have to be business related, it can be anything, life. What piece of advice would you leave our viewers and our listeners with?
Say 2 things. Number 1 is learn to know you. Like, really learn to know you. We spend a lot of time studying other people, studying in books and all of those things, but not a lot of people, I'm realizing, actually audit themselves, right? So make it a habit to audit yourselves. Learn about your own patterns, learn about the way you think, and learn about the paradigms you have that are actually making you make a certain type of decision. And a lot of time we get into these loops where we keep making the same types of decisions subconsciously, and it's not helping us, and we're still looking outside for the solution. It's not out there, it is here. But until we get into the habit of learning to know who we are, it's very difficult to achieve a lot of the goals that we have, right? And then the other thing is really to continuously expand your concept of what's possible. I love science. I love spirituality. I love science fiction. I love superhero movies because they expand your mind in terms of what could be potentially possible, right? In my mind, there's nothing that a human being can think about that cannot be made true. Everything that was in science fiction movies in the 70s is actually true now. Everything that we see in science fiction now is going to be true in a few years, right? And it's going to get faster and faster. So expand your mind constantly when it comes to what you believe is possible. Look at what other people are doing, read about it. As I said, I love science and spirituality because they take your brain completely somewhere else, very different from the day-to-day. So that's important because it helps you to start thinking bigger. And when you think bigger, you stop sweating the small stuff. Yeah, and when you stop sweating the small stuff, then you can actually be more productive. You can do more, have more impact, get more income and all of that.
I love that. When I was a kid, and you probably too, I used to love the Jetsons,
Yes!
and like he would talk to his boss like on the TV set, and look at us, we're talking to each other right now on the TV set. I'm still waiting for my hovercraft, like, if Tesla can make that, then I feel like we've won.
It's coming. I remember because I love reading. I used to, until I was around 20, I didn't used to talk a lot. I was in books all the time. And one day my dad came back from work and he was like, do you know what? One day we're going to be able to read on computers and you won't have to hold the books. And I remember me and my brothers were like, yeah, right, whatever. And then Amazon came along, right? Now we have Kindles and stuff. But all of those things, it just expands your mind to what's possible. And you start thinking bigger. So think bigger so you don't sweat the small stuff.
I love that. That is some key gifts and tokens of advice. So thank you, Kyrie. We definitely appreciate that. Now, Kyrie, I already know it's amazing to work with you. You pushed me in the pool, as I mentioned.
Yes. Yes, and I do it with love, though.
You do. You're absolutely gentle, but she don't play. So if you got goals, you're gonna jump in. And she's awesome because like she said, you will go, oh my gosh, 13 weeks, Kyrie. We started a podcast. Yeah. We started writing a book and like, oh my goodness, and giving keynotes like every month.
No, there's a lot of
That's a lot.
A lot of things. A lot can happen. Yeah, a lot can happen in a very short period of time if that's your intention. But it has to be your intention. Yeah, love that.
She is no joke. She will push you. So, Kyrie, how do our viewers and our listeners contact you and work with you? How do we do that?
Yeah. So I'm actually a business advisor inside the Unstoppable Nurse. So it's a business incubator where we literally help people from going from their idea all the way, like we have different levels of programs and stuff, all the way to multimillionaires who are looking to build a self-led team. So that's called the Unstoppable Entrepreneur, right? So you can find our tribe on Facebook. You could just search for the group Tribe of Unstoppables. And there's all of us in there. We're a big company, but we love service. We have a heart of service. So even just in the tribe, there's so much that you can gain in our workshops, our free workshops, and so on. So I would invite you to join the Tribe of Unstoppables on Facebook.
Thank you, Kyrie. So everyone, please go to Facebook and go to the Tribe of Unstoppables. I will also put that in the show notes so that you can click on that and register and really receive some of the trainings. They give a lot of wonderful advice and free trainings too for you to listen to and learn and really elevate your business to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And when you come in, just mention that you heard about the group from Susanne, and that way we can thank her for that. But yeah, the Tribe of Unstoppables.
Thank you, Kyrie. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
It was fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Yes, we will.
All right.